Welcome back to the Undieted Podcast with your hosts, Melissa
and Rebecca.
Today's episode 7. We are super excited. We are debunking diet myths, fats, carbs, and everything in between. Before we get started, I just want to give a little disclaimer, trigger warning. We will be discussing diet terms, restrictive eating, and so on. So if this is triggering to you, please feel free to skip our episode. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Yes, I was looking forward to this episode because I often encounter a lot of these diet myths when I talk to people who are recovering and are in recovery for disordered eating. Melissa, I can only imagine you probably get the same from your clientele too.
I do. And everybody wants the results in a rush. And I understand that. When I decided to change my lifestyle, I wanted it to happen right away too. And so quick fixes, we want to say, if someone says you can lose 20 pounds in 2 months, you're like, yes, that's what I want to do. I don't want to lose it in 1 year, but do you want to lose it continuously? Do you want to keep regaining it? Or do you want to lose it for the very last time, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's where, also with therapy, I encounter a bit of that same, the quickness of like, I would like to learn how to, not hyperfixate on my body or my diet. When I tell people that it's not like as quick as like a day in therapy, a lot of people also get really like, oh, why? And I'm like, well, because you're actually actively changing a lot of those internal and external messages that you've received over time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a fix for, tomorrow, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of work that has to be done. A lot of times, many people emotionally eat and they're just not aware of it. So the best way to know this is when you crave something, are you truly craving it? If you are, yes, go ahead, go all in. Don't have a healthier option. Eat what you're craving. But if you are eating because you're tired, upset, stressed out, that's more emotional eating. And we have to learn how to pattern interrupt and replace that with another action instead of having to deal with food, right? And it was like we mentioned in other episodes, a lot of that comes back to childhood because we give a candy, we give a cookie, we give a favorite foods when you're upset. And that does imprint. It's like a stamp and it carries through into adulthood.
And unfortunately, that's where, we're trying to also be aware of those, external factors that have played that role, right? And so I look forward to us, demystifying these things today.
Yes, so we are going to go over some common myths. We compiled the ones that people believe the most. The first one is eating fat makes you fat. There is a huge fruitarian on YouTube, and she often makes comments like, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. And that is just not true. The body does use fat. You need fat for your eyes, your brain, your organs. It is a very, very important macronutrient that you should not avoid. And there is a diet that is a plant-based diet, but it's called, there's a book, but they eat high carb, low fat. So they avoid all kinds of oils. They avoid everything. They eat like a quarter of an avocado, maybe,
That's unfortunate.
And limit nuts very, very much, but you do need healthy fats in your diet. Do you want to add anything?
I was thinking that, in a way, like it kind of, that's where like fats, when we think about it too, it does repair also any like injuries we have, right? I'm thinking back to like recent surgery I had, and, I had to meet with like a dietitian, and the dietitian literally told me like high protein, high fat diet because I was repairing what had happened during the surgery, right? Like I had to repair my body. And when you think about it, it's like our body does depend on fats. It is an important part of our diet.
Yes.
And it's that we have to take that word fat and almost stigmatize it when it doesn't actually apply to everything that we have, right? doesn't necessarily mean that we have to cut them out, right? So, yeah.
It's important to know that, there are different types. And the only way, and I'll repeat this every episode, that you gain weight is being in a caloric surplus. And when you break down macros, protein and carbohydrates contain 4 calories per gram and fat contains 9. Yes, it has a higher calorie per gram, but that doesn't mean that you avoid them. There are plenty of healthy fats that you should be including in your diet every single day, like avocados, nuts, olive oil, drizzled olive oil, fresh olive oil on salad and things like that. Very, very, very important for your organ function, brain, eyes, like we mentioned before. So please don't avoid that. It is not true that eating fat makes you fat. If you're constantly eating deep fried foods, that is putting you in a caloric surplus because it is very, very calorie dense. Okay.
But I guess also too, going back to an intuitive eating, perspective is that, having any deep fried foods once in a while when you feel like you want to have it, that is okay. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's where it's moderation and checking in with where you're at is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? And as well, I think that's where there is also that generational view with the truth about fats, because I notice a lot of my older generation, they tend to cling to that word as that all fats equal bad, which is not true.
No. And eating, including fat and protein, helps you stay full.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that every plate, my plating method includes fat on every single plate, snack, whatever it is. And yes, things contain fat, such as Greek yogurt. And that brings us to our next point, where the myth is low-fat diets are better for your health and weight loss. I actually tell my clients not to buy low-fat, not to buy skim milk, unless we have a chronic illness. There is no reason to buy skim milk. I rather you get 2%. You can do 1% if you want. I find it tastes watery, but you want to have, 2% Greek yogurt, even more, and that's fine. You will stay fuller longer, which means you're not going to snack and binge on your next meal, right?
Exactly.
So low-fat diets, no, that was like I explained before about the high-carb, low-fat diet. You want to have fats in your diet.
Yeah, so it's embrace fats, embrace, having them in your life. Don't shun them away, treat it like a good friend.
Yeah. The next point is that saturated fats are always bad. Again, the body needs everything in doses. The body, just like the body actually does need cortisol. It's just a lot of us are running on high cortisol all day long, but we do need that cortisol hormone, even though it's deemed as bad, it is not,
Yes,
it's just managing the amount. And it's the same thing with saturated fats. So we have saturated fats and trans fats, right?
Yes.
So trans fats have been removed from a lot of diets or minimized, but they're just chain molecules. It's all science, and you really don't have to concern yourself with the type of fats. You want to focus more on the type of foods you're eating. Are you focusing on whole foods, or are you going for the convenience, processed, deep fried, etc.?
And one comment to our listeners and viewers is that, if you ever feel that your brain keeps going to bad and good, one way to strategize is what is a balanced way of looking at this? What's the middle way, right? Because we tend to fail to look at those middle ways a lot.
Yeah. And that's it. It's just like a straight black and white list. This food is bad. This food is good. And that is also why I don't count calories. I find it extremely stressful, and it ruins my relationship with food. I can't just eat freely because everything I grab, I'm thinking, oh, how many calories am I adding? How many, instead of just really tuning into the body. And I've had people, especially who have binge episodes, tell me, it's very hard to pay attention to the body. I don't know my hunger cues. That's where you hire a professional to help you, or you seek help so that somebody can help you learn to pay attention to those hunger and fullness cues so you are not overeating.
And, it's one of those prime examples where it's I always show people the hunger versus fullness scale, and I go, that's where you have to retrain your body
Yep.
to know what it feels like to be hungry or full.
Yeah. You want to try to stop when you're 80% full. And a lot will say, well, I don't know what that means, 80% full. And, we go through that kind of stuff in our trainings. Rebecca touches on it in hers, and I do with my clients. And the one thing you want to make sure you don't do is plan to eat when your gas tank is on empty, because you are unable to make healthy food choices when you are in a state of panic, which is what hunger is, because the body is literally setting off alarms. I need food, I need food, I need food. So you will go for the convenience things and anything to satisfy you. I've had times where I've gone out to run errands and I was out much longer than I expected. And this is why it's so important to have, I don't meal prep, I ingredient prep. So I always have a protein in my fridge ready. And if I don't, I go for the protein shake. But if I come home and I'm starving, I will get protein in my body first. My hunger will come down, and then I can start preparing my meal. So that is an amazing trick, because even if you have a protein shake that's 150, 200 calories, say, that's different than having a bunch of chips or cookies or something else that you would be in a panic just grabbing because you are so starving. You end up eating a meal before you eat the meal.
It's a great tip, actually. I thank you for sharing that, because I think that's where people feel they feel stuck whenever they have that time crunch, and they are like, I don't know what to reach for, right?
You can't make a proper decision. Believe me, you can't. So yeah, you want protein. Just think about protein. If you have a chicken breast, grab the chicken breast, eat it. Pickles and mustard, that's how I like it. And then you can plan your full meal after. And if your meal contains more chicken, no problem. That's no problem. Don't count what you just had to tame your hunger as part of that meal.
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to move on to carbs. So the last one was all about fats. I forgot to mention that when we started talking about it. But the next segment is about carbohydrates. And this one is massive. Everybody is afraid of carbohydrates. They think that they cause weight gain. I'm seeing way too much people on the carnivore diet, keto. They are not eating fruit, which I believe fruit is extremely, extremely important for vitamins, nutrients, and minerals. And we are missing that when we are cutting out an entire macronutrient. So just be aware that it is a huge red flag if you have to cut out an entire macronutrient. You can eat less of a macronutrient, but you should never cut the entire thing out. You don't do that. So carbs do not cause weight gain. I actually was on a plant-based diet for about 5 years, which is extremely high in carbohydrates. I consumed probably about 300 plus grams of carbohydrates a day. And I was almost my leanest at that time, So it's not, they don't cause it at all. You have to look at what kind of carbohydrates, just like the fats. Are you eating whole foods, or are you eating processed, packaged cakes, cookies, all of that? Which carbs are you eating?
And I think that's like, carbs get such a bad rep too. Carbs have been my friend, because it's the thing that actually kept me, I would say, like, in the morning when you're like disheveled as a mom and your son hasn't slept and you're kind of like feeling like the lowest part of yourself, I would reach for carbs to give me that bit of up. And, like, that's where I think assessing it from why it is that we have carbs from like a scientific method, like we kind of know that it does provide us that energy, right? We need that to go about our day.
Yeah. Carbohydrates are the body's main source of fuel. In combination with your protein and your healthy fats, this is the perfect equation for staying satiated.
Yes.
Being full, being able to make it to the next meal without needing snacks and munching in between. You need to build these plates that have all three on them, and carbohydrates is a huge part. If you want a non-calorie counting portion control method for carbohydrates, it's your fist. You close your fist, and that is the amount. You want to serve yourself rice, all of that. That is how you measure it. And you don't have to stay true to that. I've had days where I've had 2 pieces of toast with peanut butter and fruit. So that plate is higher on the carb, but that's what I was craving. And that is what's most important, because if I didn't eat that, I would probably munch because I didn't eat what I was craving. And remember, it is what you do 80% of the time. And the third thing about that food choice that I made, they are whole foods, right?
Yeah. Now, Melissa, here's a question. Let's say you get a shawarma platter and you get like that delicious rice and like the garlic potatoes.
Yeah.
What about that?
So those portions are very big. Okay. And I've ordered those exact plates. I don't eat all of the rice and all of the potatoes, right? So you have to serve yourself that portion of both combined. But again, that can also be one of your meals that's, you just eat it, you're satisfied. Just pay attention to how full you get. Don't overeat, because the portions are extremely big. I've often shared those with someone else.
Same here. I also share those with someone else, or I leave it for the next day for lunch.
That's right. Yeah. Split it up into 2 portions. Restaurant portions are very, very big. Funny story, on my honeymoon, we traveled to Europe, and I remember ordering things and I would look down at the plate and I'm like, where's the food? They were such small portions, but you know what? The West has large portions. We overconsume food. We just overeat.
That's true.
We're in a culture of overconsuming. We overconsume on products we buy. You see these Amazon influencers showing all these knickknacks that they have in their purse, that they have a lot of stuff we don't need. We're overconsuming food products. We're just overconsuming to make companies more money. And we don't have to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was the first one. Carbs make you gain weight. The second one was you should cut out carbs completely to be healthy. We went over that. False. I have someone that I know that did against my advice, is doing the carnivore diet. And I said, she went out to someone's house and I said, so what do you do when you go to someone's house? Are you bringing your own food with you? Because that's not fun. Or are you eating? What are you doing? Oh no, that's my cheat day. Red flag.
Yeah.
So that just proves to you that we can't go without carbohydrates. The body craves them.
Yes.
A lot of people who eat, there is nothing wrong, by the way, with eating a high protein diet like that. You want to eat a lot of meats but include fruit.
Yeah.
I have people that avoid grains because the grains bother them. And there is nothing wrong with not eating bread, not eating grains, if your body is not agreeing. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to eat everything. What I want you to do is really build plates, and you can do that with different types of food. So as I mentioned, if you're following a carnivore type diet, eat fruit as your carbohydrate on your plate. It has water, vitamins, minerals, fiber. It is amazing, and it's a good combination. I often see people eating mango with steak, and that looks delicious to me.
Yeah, it does.
So don't think that I'm saying everybody has to eat toast, everybody has to eat rice. I just don't want you cutting out a complete macronutrient. I don't want you cutting out fats, and I don't want you cutting out carbohydrates from your diet in an attempt to lose weight or to be healthy. I'm doing air quotes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so moving on to the next one, that all carbohydrates are the same. We've talked about that too. It is not. There is processed, there are simple and complex carbohydrates. Are the carbs you're eating whole foods, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything there before we move on?
No, I just gotta say, a lot of my clients who have disordered eating, they really they always say I go back to the carbs. I'm like, but there is a reason for that. There's a biological reason for that. And it's just, if you check with yourself to say, okay, first of all, where did I learn this messaging? And also, check with also the science. Why is it that we need this? Science will always provide us the answer, not Facebook.
No, exactly. And the body will always fight back. This is why people who restrict their calories very low, they end up binging often, because the body will always fight back.
Yep, it will.
I worked with a woman who decided she wanted to weigh 125. Where she got that number, I don't know. And she was sitting at 135. And when she came to me, it was, she can't lose that last 10 pounds. And I worked with her to change her mindset on, how do you know that you need to lose this last 10 pounds? Just because you want to see a certain number on the scale. The problem with focusing on that number, especially if you strength train or you have any kind of resistance training, you don't necessarily need to want to get lean and toned. But if you want to keep your muscle mass, which is very important, muscle weighs more than fat. So your weight will go up. You can often see people putting before and afters where they look a lot leaner in one picture and they either weigh the exact same, or the leaner picture, they weigh more.
Yes.
And that is called a body composition.
Yeah.
So, the scale is funny. I know we go to the doctor, they weigh us. I'm not totally against weighing. I do weigh myself once a month. I don't even know why, just, check or whatever. But it's not something you need to be hyper focused on. It is one small tool. I really love progress pictures and how you feel in your clothes.
Yeah.
More than that.
And I always encourage clients, like, if you feel triggered by being weighed at your doctor's office, you can always ask them to take what we call a blind scale, like, which means they will not tell you what your weight is. Like, they will just take the weight and they will not tell you the result if it's too triggering for you.
Yeah, I knew someone like that while she was pregnant, she didn't want to know, right?
Yeah.
Because you gain weight. And so for some people, that's very triggering and you have no choice but to gain weight 'cause you're growing a human.
Yes, which, that's the funny part is, like, in pregnancy, they encourage you to, consume a lot of fat, a lot of carbs, because this is all important energy
Nutrients.
and nutrients for the fetus, right?
We are going to move on to breaking down the popular diet trends. We did discuss some of those in our conversations that we were having before. But, keto, paleo, low fat, low carb. And one thing I want to tell you, I have this session that I have with certain clients, and it's like teaching you 100 dietary paradigms in 10 minutes. And really what these diets do, so they give them a title to attract you. You see something new. You're someone who has been wanting to lose weight. Nothing is working. You see this new diet title and you're like, oh, I got to try this. All they do is play with the macronutrients, right? So we know that keto, paleo, high protein, low carbs, they're just manipulating all of that.
And they also play on words. They use marketing to the advantage, nice features on a video, shining signs,
and unsustainable promises on results. I mean, how could you truly promise someone an amount of weight loss?
Yeah.
Every single individual is different and it is extremely hard to promise them that, In my programs, I talk about those who work with me for 3 to 6 months. From past clients, I give a range between 5 and 15 pounds. Can you lose more? Sure. Can you lose none at all because all we're doing is really working on your mindset? You're going to lose weight, right? Any kind of lifestyle change results in weight loss. And it all comes down to how do you want to do it? Do you want to restrict and track, or do you want to create your own personal way of eating, understanding what your body thrives on? Because that's how you're going to lose weight for the last time. I'm proof of that. I've never struggled with my weight since I lost it because this is just my lifestyle now. Does my body change as I grow? Yeah, of course. We all do. I've had 4 kids too. My body's not the same as it was in my 20s. But I live an active lifestyle. I remain at a healthy weight.
Yeah.
And that is from me doing me.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, it's like, I definitely know my body's not the same as it was pre my son, but I try to live in joyful movement. I try to eat what I want, intuitive eating wise. I try to live without judgment for myself. Because what's the point? What is the point? Life is so short.
Yeah.
Right?
And a lot of marketing too plays on hormones and cortisol. I've seen people say, join my cortisol management program. I mean, look, again, like I said, you have to be in a caloric surplus. Do hormones cause you to be hungrier? Sure, yeah. Because if you're stressed out, you're going to eat. This is the emotional eating part. So I
Exactly.
focus on helping women who are navigating hormonal changes and emotional eating. And what I mean by navigating hormonal changes is they are getting older, their body's changing, their hunger cue, like they're more hungrier maybe, and we address their lifestyle.
Yes.
But it is not your hormones' fault. Or I've had people say, oh, ever since my last child, I'm overweight. And they don't realize that, you have a toddler right now. They are so active. You are running after them all the time. I have more independent kids. My youngest is 5. And I even catch myself, can you go get mommy a glass of water? Where I used to go get that glass of water myself. Right? So my son vacuums for me. That's something I used to
me,
do.
Melissa, because I need
Yeah.
that for my toddler. So
It
it's
all
true
happens
because
slowly.
I've been running after my toddler this whole time. I think Melissa knows. She got a preview of that this morning.
So I was running after them too all the time, catching them from running down the stairs, this and that. They're crawling. The minute they start moving, they're nuts. So a lot of these women who say that they're gaining weight after their last, it's just because you're not as active as you once were. So you have to replace that with movement.
Yes.
And my highest suggestion is daily walks. If you can take a 30-minute walk every day, it is going to be a game changer in your life. Walking movement also significantly helps with cravings.
And stress.
Significantly, because it manages your stress.
Exactly.
See? It's all connected.
It's all interconnected. Now, I want to call out, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I want to call out all these new diets that are addressing cortisol and
we can do whatever we want on this podcast, Rebecca.
Okay, good. I'm glad because, if to all the listeners out there, if you've ever seen that meme with the Elmo with the fire behind it, that's me right now. Honestly,
you should make a reel about that. Find that meme.
Yeah,
and put the words over it. Yeah,
I will, because the thing that drives me nuts is when I see a diet that I will lower your cortisol, and I have to faceplant myself as a therapist because I go, wow, first of all, it's okay for your body to produce cortisol because it naturally does, and it's at its highest peak when you're sleeping. But number 2, this is where you kind of want to see a licensed mental health professional. And also, you can't just get rid of cortisol. Cortisol is part of your body, right? And it's all these, false advertisings that I always caution all my clients. I say, be careful. These people are obviously unethically recommending treatments that a health professional would look at them like they're an alien with 2 heads. So anything that says that they can change your hormones or they promise you a product that will change your hormones, I would say think twice and go back to even asking your doctor.
Yeah.
I think that is where you can also go to your physician, therapist, dietitian, health coach. You can ask them, does it sound, reasonable? Does this sound like an actual thing that will work? And the answer will be no.
And if someone says, oh, if you take this supplement, you'll be fine. No.
Yeah. No.
I believe in supplements. I believe that you should take what you're lacking, what you need. I do take supplements daily, but I think it is irresponsible to just tell everyone to take something or to do something. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's where it's when we think about breaking down those diet trends, is if it's telling you must do something, that's where you kind of want to think with your rebellion brain and go, wait, I don't want to do what someone else is telling me. What the hell? And hell, if you even had that reaction to us, I appreciate that because that means you have free will and self-awareness.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Right.
And, the one thing that often people think is what works for one person is going to work for you. And that is false. That is why I don't coach 2 clients the same. You have a foundation, but everybody's different.
Yes.
We all tolerate foods differently. We tolerate stress differently. we have I have some clients that are stay-at-home moms. I have working moms. I have 35-year-old moms. I have 55-year-old moms. They're not all going to lose weight the same. They're not all going to create the same type of lifestyle, right? We have some, for example, with my working moms, there's a lot of, you have to prepare. When you are home with your children, there's an opportunity for you to sneak in 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, if you're allowed to do that. And, to be honest, I was home with my kids, and when they were sleeping, I just wanted to rest myself. I didn't want to clean and do all of that. So you do have to prepare. There's a different way for every stage of life. There's different way for every different person. So the way one person loses weight is not how someone else is going to lose weight. I was coaching a client whose sister-in-law was doing the Debunking diet, and she's like, she lost like 40 pounds. Maybe that's what I should do. Can you show me how to do that? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. If that is something you need to do, that's going to be outside of me. We continue to work together. I coached her for 9 months. And to be honest, I think she went on to try it. And then she came back and I coached her again. But she told me, you were right. My sister-in-law gained the weight back. I said, of course.
And that's where it's like diets fail to see that there are individual differences. There are individual lives that will not apply to one diet per se.
I hope in our discussions that we really emphasize the importance on building a sustainable lifestyle rather than these quick fixes. I know they seem fun. They seem easy. You want to do them. I've been there. I know exactly how you feel. I never was successful when I did that. So please focus on sustainability. Always ask yourself, can I do this for the next 20 years? If the answer is no, don't even start it.
Exactly.
So we're going to wrap up. And before we go, Rebecca is going to share your homework and what you are going to do after this episode.
So your call to action, your homework, sharing is caring. If you hear this information today and you're kind of thinking, oh, I have a loved one that keeps falling into these diets, these myths, I want you to share it with them in a non-judgmental way, of course, in a caring way, saying, I'm sharing this because I care.
All right, we are wrapping up. Thank you for listening to this episode. Let us know on social media if anything has resonated with you, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye.